All right, guys, welcome back to the class, and I hope you guys are doing pretty good. So, we are in the interview preparation module where we discuss important interview questions for different companies. Till now, guys, we have seen interview questions for Telit, then we saw for Deutsche Bank, then we saw for Accenture, LTI. And in today's class, guys, we will be discussing the interview question for Capgemini. Now, note that whatever the questions which I have taken in this particular module are legit interview questions. Meaning, if you are going to give an interview for any of the companies which are going to be present in the interview preparation module, chances are you're going to get similar kind of questions. So, if you are someone who is preparing for the interviews and you want to prepare for the interviews in the correct way, please make sure that you go through this entire module blindly. Practice it properly, because the more you practice, you will be getting more and more confident in answering these particular questions. Now, as usual, this is going to be a study with me series, and over here, guys, I really don't expect any of these particular questions or any of these particular topics. We will be learning these things from scratch again. All right. So you will find the document for these questions for Capgemini in the download section. Quickly download it off and just go through these particular 5 questions. Just see the questions and see if you're able to understand or you think you will be able to answer it off. All right, great. Now, guys, I hope you have downloaded this particular file and you have gone through this particular question. So let me just explain you about the questions which have been asked and what was the years of experience the candidate was having. So as usual, guys, this questions which you see is for Capgemini, and the candidate over here was having like around 3 years of experience, okay, in automation testing. Now, if you are someone who is having 10 years or, like 11 years of experience in automation testing and you feel like, Arey, these questions will not be asked to me in interview, keep the ego aside and study. Okay. The goal is not ki baba whether these are 3 years of experience candidate and these kinds of questions will not be asked to you in interview. Okay. Definitely these questions will not be asked to you. I'm pretty sure on that part. But the thing is, when you are studying, you're like, it's fine. Let's just go to these 5 questions and see if you're able to answer it off. Makes sense to everyone. So see if you are able to understand these 5 questions. See if you're able to answer it off. Okay. This is really going to help you out in long run. Okay. All right. So over here, guys, we have been given 5 questions. And the first question over here is, I think it was for a coding round. And the question over here is, given a string with mix of small and capital letters, write a program to change all the small letters to capital and all the capital letters to small. Meaning, all the letters which are there in lowercase, I need to convert it into uppercase. And whatever is going to be there in uppercase, I have to convert it into lowercase. Okay. We call it toggle, right? You have to toggle the string. Now, if you have solved the logic building module, I have already covered this particular question. Okay. So, all the questions which are there in logic building also, if you have studied it properly, you will see that only those questions are getting repeated again and again in interview. All right. So, this particular question is also from logic building itself. Okay. So, people who have solved it, I'm pretty sure you will be able to write the code along with me during this session. Next, the question is, what is the difference between string builder and string buffer in Java? All right. We know that string buffer is what? Is what? Is it thread safe? Yes, it is thread safe because it uses synchronized, and string builder is not thread safe. Okay. So over here, guys, string buffer, because it is thread safe, it is going to be slow, and string builder is not thread safe, it is fast. Both string builder and string buffer are basically used to create mutable, okay, mutable string. If any kind of a modification is going to come into the string, we always go with string builder or string buffer. All right. So this particular question again from your Java module. Next, what are exceptions in Java and how can they be handled? Now, this particular question, guys, if you look at the 4, 5 companies which are there, everyone has asked about exception handling in Java. Okay. So this time, guys, I'll be answering it in a bit different way. So again, this is a very common question. Next, how can you perform keyboard actions like Control, Alt, and Shift using Selenium WebDriver? Over here, they are talking about actions classes. So we will be looking into a snippet of performing all these operations. And finally, how do you handle test failure in test engine? Now, this is going to be a very important interview question. Okay. So here we have to talk about the best practices which are there to handle failures in your test execution. All right. Now, these are the 5 questions which I will be discussing in today's class. Now, as usual, guys, if you are studying with me, I don't want your mobile phone next to you guys. I want your book, pen, tea, coffee, whatever you feel like having. And we will just study these 5 questions. Okay. Now, please make sure you watch the entire video. All right. Don't jump between the questions. Is this part clear to everyone? I know some of these questions are going to get repeated again and again, again and again, and it's fine. Okay, it's completely fine that the questions are getting repeated because this is where your revision also comes into picture. All right. I'm pretty sure you will be able to answer what are exceptions in Java and how it can be handled. Okay, I'm pretty sure you will be able to write the code for the first program. But again, this is what study is all about, right? The more you revise, the more you do things again and again, okay, it's going to give you the confidence. Is this part clear to everyone? Great. Perfect. Now, guys, out of all these 5 questions, if you ask me, Jatin, tell me the important interview questions again, I'll say the first one, I'll say the last one. Okay. The fourth one is also important. Exception handlings. Now, I think it's a very commonly asked question. So you can think it is important, but yeah, something you should be definitely aware of. Uh, Difference between string builder and string buffer, it has been asked a lot of time. So if you ask me, all the 5 questions are important. All right, all the 5 questions are important over here. Now, for your convenience, I have not only just attached these questions, but I've also answered it off and kept it over here. So please make sure you take a printout of this particular document also. All right, I hope you know this particular part. Now, let's get started with the first question over here, guys, which is to toggle the case of a string. All right. So over here, guys, let's say we have been given an input string called hello world. Okay. This is called hello world. We have to toggle the case, meaning each character in this particular string, I have to convert its casing. So I see hello world, H is capital, it is going to become lowercase. E is in lowercase, I have to make it capital. L is in lowercase, I will make it capital. Similarly for O, world W is going to be capital. Okay. I am going to make it small. Then O R L D. This will be the output of this particular program. All right. Now, most of you guys will be able to write the code. I'm pretty sure on that part. But let's try to understand, okay, how exactly this particular stuff will be done. So we will be given a string. Okay, string can be anything. The first thing is, now we would be given some kind of a string, guys, and this is going to be hello world. So what I've done is I will be creating a string builder which is going to store the final result. So I will be creating a string builder result, okay, equal to new string builder. The goal is to traverse the entire string. How do I traverse the entire string? The best way is that you convert this particular string into character array. So what I will do, I will say input string. I will say input string dot to character array. I will be getting a character array. I'll write it with a different color. Okay. Let's call this a data array. So the string which is in double quotes, okay, now is going to be present inside a character array, which will look something like this. H capital E L L O. Then you have a space. So space will be there. W will be capital O R L D. Okay. This is going to be 0th index, 1 index, 2 index, 3 index, 4 index, 5 index, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So over here, this is your data array. All right. Now, what we will try to do is we will create a string builder. All right. We will create a string builder. So I'm going to say string builder result equal to new string builder. And we will traverse this entire array with the help of a simple for each loop. So for data array, and inside this data array, I have these individual characters. So I will try to read individual characters. So I'll be getting a data which is going to be of character type. Is this part clear to everyone? Then what you are going to do? You are going to check whether the character is in uppercase or lowercase. How can you do that? We have seen that particular program. How? There is a special class in Java. Which class? Character class. So I'm going to check if character dot is uppercase. And I'm going to pass this data character. If it is an uppercase, convert it into lowercase. So character dot to lowercase. All right, data. So this result which we have, right, we are going to append that particular character in this result. So I'm going to say, let me use a different color. Result dot append the data. Also, you have to check if this character is not in uppercase. You will use a else block. Else if character dot is lowercase, pass the data over there. All right. Then you're going to say result dot append, and internally only I'll call directly character dot to uppercase data. Make sense? Now, whether a character is going to be lowercase or whether it is going to be uppercase, they belong to your alphabets. Okay, only an alphabet can be in uppercase and lowercase, but we also have a space, right? So what if I'll be having special symbols, special characters? Then what I'm supposed to do? Nothing, just append it. So I'm going to say else, just directly append it. Result dot append data. There's no need to convert it into uppercase, lowercase, no operation. Just append it. If it is not an alphabet, okay, don't even bother about doing anything. Just append it off. All right. And finally, you will be printing the result. All right. So this was the entire code. I have already written this particular code over here. So let's go through this particular code, guys, first. Let me use a different pen. Yeah. So over here, guys, we have been given this input, hello world. Then I will be creating the string builder result, because we will be performing a lot of append operation and we are trying to do a lot of modification. So when you're going to have a lot of modification, it is better to use string builder rather than using string class. Clear? Now over here, guys, I have this string builder in which my final result will be stored. Then I'm converting my string into character array, and then I will be traversing from that character array. I will be getting individual character. Okay, I will check whether it is in uppercase. If it is in uppercase, I will convert it into lowercase and I'm going to append it to the result. If it is going to be in lowercase, I'm going to convert it into uppercase and I'm going to append it to result. If it is not an alphabet, that is, it is not in uppercase nor in lowercase, I will just directly append it and we are done. Is this part clear to everyone? Great. Will you be able to write the code by yourself? Okay. I'm giving you exactly 5 minutes. You are not supposed to look into the code now. Open your Eclipse, start writing the code right away. All right, guys, I hope you were able to write the code for this particular program. Now, let me just write the code and you can just cross check, okay, my code with yours. Now, over here, we are talking about CG Capgemini. So I'm just going to right click in the SRC main Java in your interview prep project. Okay, I'm in the interview prep project. Here, I will be creating a package called as Capgemini. Okay, and over here, I will be creating a class. Let's call this particular class as toggle uh, case, something like that. All right. And of course, I will need the main method to be there in this particular class. Now, over here, guys, we have been given a string. Let's say the string over here is input, and input is going to have, let's say, hello world. All right. Now, what we want to do is we want to toggle the casing. So over here, H needs to be converted into lowercase, E is going to be converted into uppercase, so on and so forth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a string builder, okay, SB equal to new string builder. Now I'm going to get the input in a character array format. So input dot to character array, and it is going to give me data in the character array format. Let's call this as data array. Now we will start traversing this particular data array. So from data array, I will be getting individual characters. So let's say that variable, the temporary variable is going to be data. And what we will do is we will just print out data for now. So let's save it, click on the play button. And if I just scroll up, I can see HELLO space, okay, space WORLD. Everything is coming into picture. But of course, first we need to check the casing. So I'm going to introduce a if block, if character class dot, okay, is uppercase. This particular character is going to be in uppercase. What I will do is I will be converting it into lowercase. How? Character dot to lowercase. Okay. Let's say you want to create a variable out of it. You can create a variable and store it over here. Let's call this as character X. And then I can just say SB dot append X. All right. But when you're writing the stuff in interview, right, don't create this temporary variable. It doesn't look good. So just copy this, you put it off over here. All right. Then later on, you can remove it off. I'm going to copy this. Okay. And I'm going to have my else if block coming into picture. Now, character dot is lowercase. All right. And then I'm going to convert it into uppercase. So to uppercase. Okay. And I'm going to have a final else block also. So else, just append it as it is. All right. Just append the data. And we are done. All right. Control Shift F. Let me just zoom out. This is the entire code. Now, after the for loop, this is where my for loop is getting completed. I'm going to say system.out.println. If you remember, I have written over there OG string. So this is going to be the OG string. Okay. And I'm just going to attach input over here. So if I'm going to click on the play button, the OG string is hello world. Let's give a little bit of spacing. Okay. This is the OG string, but I want to change the casing. So I'm going to have this toggled case. All right. And we will just print SB dot to string. Done. Click on the play button and see the output. Ta-da! Done. All right. So H, which was there in uppercase, got converted in lowercase. E, which was there in lowercase, is now converted into uppercase, so on and so forth. Is this part clear to everyone? Very simple program, right? All right. I hope you have understood the logic of this particular program. You have seen the code over there. I want you guys to write it down one more time. All right. Practice it. Okay. try to write the code by yourself one more time, and then we will try to discuss the second question, which is the difference between string builder and string buffer. All right, guys, let's move on to the next question, which is what is the difference between string builder and string buffer in Java? Now, we have already seen the difference between string builder, string buffer, and string during your Java module. If you have studied the Java module properly, you will be able to answer this particular question very well in the interview, because this is a very important interview question and it has been asked a lot of time. All right. So our job over here is to understand the difference between string builder and string buffer. All right. So what I've done over here, guys, is I have just introduced the revision for string. So even though we have to talk about string builder and string buffer, it would be a good revision also that if we go to the topic of string, all right, we will understand string, we will understand what is the difference between string builder and string buffer and how you're supposed to answer this particular question in interview. All right. So we will come to all these things, whatever we have written over here. But first, let's just, just try to put our thoughts on a paper and just try to understand what is string. All right. So whatever you are aware of string, you can write it at your end and I'll try to write it at my end. So if we are talking about string, what is string? What do you know about string? String is a non-primitive data type. Yes or no? Meaning string is a special class in Java. What type of a class is string? String is a final class. Yes or no? Final classes are what classes? Final classes are classes whose child cannot be present. Meaning final classes cannot be parent classes. Okay. Now, the next thing that we are aware of string is how do you create a string? Since it's a string, string is a class, we should write something like this, no? String input equal to new string. Yes or no? But instead of writing like this, we generally write it like this. Input equal to, let's say, hello world. All right, let's put string also here. All right, we write it like this. Now, what is this? You see this double quotes, hello world over here. What is this? This over here, my dear friends, is what you call as string literal. Yes or no? This is what you call as a string literal. Now, string generally is going to be created like this only in Java. We don't go with a previous approach. New string, we don't really write it off. I can write it off, okay, but it is always better you write it like this. Why? Because whenever you are going to create a string literal is going to be stored in a very special memory. What is that memory? It's called as your string intern code. All right. Now, the thing is, your string class is dash in nature. It is immutable. Okay, let me use a different color. Which color? Yeah. Immutable. Immutable basically means that you cannot do any kind of modification on a string, and any kind of modification, any kind of concatenation that you are trying to perform on a string is going to result in creation of new string. Is this part clear to everyone? So please remember this particular line, that string class is immutable in nature. any modification made in the string will result in creation of a new string in the intern pool. Is this part clear to everyone? Yes, because this word called immutable, this is the starting point of your string buffer and string builder, because your string builder and your string buffer, they are both mutable. Okay, mutable meaning I can perform modification in string builder and string buffer. Is this part clear? Now talking about your string intern pool, okay, I'm really interested on the string intern pool. Let's revisit how exactly your data is stored, your string is stored in your string intern pool. When I'm trying to write, let's say, string input equal to hello world, what Java is going to do is going to look at the RHS. First is going to look at the RHS. This is your LHS. This is your RHS. On the RHS, it looks like that there is a string literal. String literals are always going to be stored in intern pool memory. Now this intern pool memory, right, it's a very special type of a memory, because in this particular memory of intern pool, you can only have unique values, unique string literal. So before Java goes and store hello world in the intern pool, it will check whether hello world is present in the intern pool or not. Right now it is not present. Since it is not present, it is going to be a unique value. Your hello world will be stored over here. And input is what? Yes, what is this input? Input over here, my dear friends, is a reference variable. So input basically points to this string literal which is there in the intern pool. Now, let's say that I will create another string reference. Let's call this as data. And data is also having the string literal hello world. Now, what Java is going to do? It is going to check whether hello world is present in the intern pool or not. And over here, you will notice that hello world is already present in intern pool. Since it is already present, another string literal will not be present in the intern pool, because in intern pool, you cannot have duplicate values. All the values will be unique. So what is going to happen? So over here, guys, data is going to point to the same literal hello world, which input is also pointing to. What is the benefit over here? Memory management, right? Here we are getting a benefit of memory. Okay, your memory optimization is having, you're not wasting unnecessary a lot of memory. Is this part clear to everyone? Now, if I say data equal to data plus Jatin. So over here, what we are expecting that this particular string will be modified. So technically data is pointing to hello world. So over here, hello world plus Jatin. This is a concatenation operation which is happening. The output should be hello world Jatin. Right? You're trying to modify a string. But over here, string is immutable in nature. So this string literal will not be modified. What is going to happen? Over here, a new string literal will be created. Hello world Jatin. Alright. And data which was pointing to hello world will start pointing to hello world Jatin. So what is happening? Both the string is there. This one is also there. Okay. This one is also there. Hello world is there, and along with that, hello world Jatin is also present. So when you are modifying string, okay, what is happening again and again? New string will be created in your intern pool. So this is not a good practice. Is this part clear to everyone? Now, if you want to do any kind of a modification, that's where you will be using string buffer and string builder. All right. So this is all about your string class. Now take a moment and just read through the points which are related for string. I'll read it along with you guys. String is a Java class, okay, which is immutable. Immutable basically means something that cannot be modified, cannot be changed. All right. This is what immutability means. Meaning their values cannot be changed once they are created. Any modification such as concatenation creates a new string object in the memory. Here I am talking about your string literal. So literals will be present in your intern pool. String class is thread safe. Please make a note of this particular point. This is very important. String class is thread safe because it is immutable. Hence, it can be used in a multi-threaded environment. People can ask in interview, is string class thread safe or non-thread safe? Now you know that string is immutable. Okay. But people over the internet, you might have not read it or someone would have not said this particular point. But I say it explicitly even in the Java module, and I'm saying it over here also, that string class is thread safe. And remember something, whatever is going to be thread safe, right, it is always going to be slow. Remember this point also. If anything which is going to be thread safe is eventually going to be slow. To have thread safety or you don't want to have thread safety, it's completely a system requirement and it has nothing to do with a particular like functionality as such. So please don't think that thread safe is a bad thing or a good thing, nothing like that. Okay, totally depends on the requirement. Now use string when the values is constant and modifications are infrequent. Less modifications are required. So over here, you will be using string. So string literals are always going to be consist as constant. String are stored in a special memory which is called as your string pool or string intern pool. When a new string is created using a literal, the JVM checks the pool for an existing instance with the same value, right? If it exists, the reference is reused, saving memory. This particular point is important. Please read it one more time. String are stored in a very special memory, which is called as the string intern pool. When a string is created using string literal, the JVM, Java, is going to check the pool for an existing instance with the same value. If it exists, the reference is going to be reused and hence we will be saving memory. The same example over here, guys. If you look carefully, second time when I was trying to create hello world, Java will first check in the intern pool whether hello world was present or not. If it was present, what it did not create hello world again. Data was pointing to hello world which was created during the first creation for input. Makes sense to everyone? So even though there are two string, the literal was present only one in the memory. So you were saving memory. All right. Remember, Java comes from a time where we were having problem with memory. Okay. Storage was a bigger problem. Okay. In 90s. Now we live in a time where we don't have problem with memory. Okay. We have problem probably with performance. So we want to make sure that the program, the applications that we build, they are performance centric. All right. Now, is this particular part clear to everyone? Next, if I am talking about string, one more important concept that you should be remembering is about string interning. Okay. The string pool is a very special memory region where Java stores string literals. This is a string literal. All right. If a string already exists in the string pool, the intern method returns the reference to the existing string. Please make a note of this particular point. Again, they can ask an interview, what is the purpose of intern method? Intern method is going to check whether a particular string literal is present in the intern memory or not. If it is present, it is going to return the reference to the existing string. If the string is not already in the intern pool, the intern method is going to add it to the pool and return the reference. Remember, you can create string in two ways. The one way was directly using the string literal. Okay. Sorry, string literal. So this is your string literal. Okay. This one will be created in your string intern pool. But what I can do is I can write something like this also. String data equal to new string. Let's say hello. So tell me where exactly this particular string will be created in the string intern pool or in your heap memory. It will be created in your heap memory. How? You see the new keyword. So this particular string object will be created in your heap memory. And if I want to bring this particular literal in the intern pool, I will be using the intern method. All right. If I want to move a literal, I won't say move the literal. If I want to add a literal into the intern memory, I can use the intern method. Is this part clear to everyone? So please remember this particular stuff. Take a moment and just go through these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 points. Just go through it one more time. All right. Because see, you never know what exactly they can ask in interview. And I don't really want you guys to mug up the program. If you're studying about string builder and string buffer, revise string also, right? Okay, revise string also so that, like your concepts are much more clear. All right. I hope you have gone through all the 7 points. Now, guys, let's talk about string builder and string buffer. One word which is going to be associated with string builder and string buffer is going to be mutability. Mutability. All right. Meaning modification. If you are going to perform any kind of a modification in string, it is always better that you go with string buffer or string builder. Makes sense to everyone. Now, if you have solved the logic building problems, you would have seen that I always use string builder. Okay. Now, string builder and string buffer are classes used to create mutable sequence of characters, that is string, but they have a key difference in terms of thread safety and performance. So the main difference between your string builder and string buffer is going to be thread safety and on performance. Also remember that your string buffer was introduced first. So in Java 1.0, the first version of Java, your string buffer was introduced. String builder came later. String builder was introduced later. String builder was introduced in Java 5. Please make a note of this particular point. Now, thread safety. The first point over here itself is thread safety. Is string buffer thread safe? Your string buffer class is thread safe. Methods in string buffer are synchronized. You're supposed to use this particular word, synchronized. Synchronized is a keyword in Java also. If you remember, in one of an assignment, okay, when I was creating the singleton class, I used the synchronized keyword. Synchronized keyword is used to make a data, a method block, thread safe. Please make a note of this particular point. All right. Meaning, they are safe for use in a multi-threaded environment. Also remember that anything which is going to be synchronized is always going to be slow. So yes, string buffer is going to be thread safe, but there is going to be a performance issue. That is, it is going to be slow. Can I go to the next point? String builder. String builder is not thread safe, meaning the method in string builders are not synchronized. And since they are not synchronized, they are fast. But then If the methods are not synchronized, they cannot be used in multi-threaded environment. All right. Is this particular point clear to everyone? Perfect. Can I go to the next one? Okay. Performance. String buffer. String buffer is actually slow compared to string builder because synchronization. String builder is fast because it does not have synchronization overhead, making it more efficient for single threaded operation. All your logic building problems, I only used string builder. Is this part clear to everyone? Yes. Use case, you are going to use string buffer in a multi-threaded environment. String buffer, you are going to use it in a single threaded environment. Is this part clear to everyone? Both the points are very simple. Now what I've done is, even though the interviewer was only asking for string buffer and string builder, don't talk about string, but since we are studying, always compare your string buffer and string builder. Mutability. String class is immutable. String buffer is mutable. String builder is mutable. Thread safety. String class is thread safe because it is immutable. If modifications cannot happen, everything becomes thread safe. Is this part clear? Okay. String buffer. It is thread safe because the methods are synchronized. String builder. Okay. Is it mutable? Yes. Okay. String builder is not thread safe. This particular point is wrong. So over here, please update it off. String builder is not thread safe. So I'm going to correct it and I'm going to say no. Please write no over here. It's just good for single threaded environment, right? Performance. Slow for modification. Okay. Any kind of a modification that I'm going to do in string is going to be a little bit slow, of course, because it's thread safe. String buffer, it is going to be definitely faster than string, but it is going to be slower than string builder. And string builder is fastest only in a single threaded environment. All right. Use cases. Whenever you want to create any kind of a constant infrequent changes, you are going to go with string. If you require modification in a multi-threaded environment, go for string buffer. If you require modification in a single threaded environment, go for string builder. Now, storage, where the data is going to be stored. When you are working with string, the data is always going to be stored in string pool. For string buffer and string builder, you are trying to create an object. All the data is going to be stored in the heap memory. Is this part clear to everyone? Perfect. Please go through this entire answer one more time. Okay. Please spend a decent amount of time revisiting all the points. And once it is done, write it down in your notebook by yourself. Can you do that? Okay. Quickly start writing about the difference between string builder and string buffer. Let me give you extra point. I want you to write about string builder, string buffer by yourself. Quickly write it down. All right. I hope you have written all the thing about string builder, string buffer and string. Now let's move on to the next question, guys. Okay. And the next question over here is, what are exceptions in Java and how they can be handled? We have already seen this particular question n number of times. Now, I want you guys to answer first in your own words. What does exception means? What is the best way to handle exception? Or what are the different ways you can handle exception? Which is the most efficient way to handle exception? All right. Quickly start writing it down in your notebook. Now, guys, we have seen this particular question a lot of time. What are exceptions in Java and how they can be handled? So, guys, if you are going to give any interviews, please make sure that you prepare for this particular question pretty well. Okay. You have seen all the interview questions that I have covered so far. So, you really understand the importance of this particular question. Now, of course, when you're answering this particular question in interview, don't just sound theoretical, like someone who has just mugged up all these points. Like you are supposed to remember what the various exceptions that you have faced in your automation from framework. Then also talk about the ideal way using which you can handle the exception. The difference between your try catch block, throw and throws keyword. All right. And also remember, how do you create customized exception, all right, in your project? Now, we have already seen this thing in the Java module. So please make sure that if you want to revisit creation of customized exception, check those lectures. All right. Now, let's quickly go through this particular answer. Now, over here, guys, whenever someone asks about what is an exception, what is an exception? Okay, try to answer it by yourself. An exception is basically any unwanted or unexpected event that disrupts the normal flow of your program. Any unwanted disruption that affects the normal flow of your program is called as an exception. Now, to make sure that you're building your system robust, if you want your system to be robust, it is really important that you introduce exception handling in your code. All right. Please read the next line. To ensure that the smooth execution of a program, it is necessary to handle exception effectively so that the system can gracefully handle failure and remain robust. All right. Now, whenever we want to handle exception in Java, there are basically two ways to do that. The first one is with the help of try, catch, block, and the second one is with throws. Now, these are the two ways that we have seen for handling exception, which is the ideal way to handle exception. The most ideal way to handle exception is using try catch block because it allows you to provide custom exception messages and implement specific recovery logic for different scenarios. Is this part clear to everyone? Okay. So the most ideal way to handle exception is always going to be with try catch block because it helps us to provide custom exception messages. Along with that, we can have specific recovery logic for different scenarios. If something goes wrong, we can actually use the finally block. Okay, we can, like try to save the state of your program, something like that. We can do it with the help of try catch and finally. Now, of course, we are preparing for interviews, but we should not forget that we are also studying now. All right. So please remember that whenever you are studying for exception handling, you should be able to answer try catch block, throw, and throws keyword. Okay. Now, try catch, as you have read it, try catch is basically used to handle exception on your code. It prevents program termination due to unhandled exception. Throw is used to explicitly throw an exception. With the help of throw, I can throw checked or unchecked exception. What is a checked exception? Checked exceptions are basically exceptions which are going to be caught by the compiler. Whereas unchecked exceptions are basically exceptions which are going to come runtime. Tell me some checked exceptions. Yes. File not found exception. Next. Runtime exception. You can have null pointer exception coming into picture. SQL exception, okay, is also compile time exception coming into picture. All right. IO exception. All right. Null pointer exception, array index out of bound exception, stale element exception. Like I'm just giving you the different exceptions that can happen in your project. All right. In the previous interview questions, we have discussed the different exceptions which come in your automation framework. So please make sure that you revisit that also. All right. Now, throw, as I said, is used to throw the exception explicitly, whereas throws is used to handle exception. Using throws, you can declare checked exception in method signature. So if I'm going to have a method, next to the method, I can just say throws IO exception, provided my code block in the method is having an IO exception. All right. Next thing over here, guys, inform the caller that they need to handle the declared exceptions. Meaning, let's say I have this particular method called M1 method, which throws IO exception. And let's say main method internally calls M1 method. Now, since M1 method is going to throw IO exception, even the caller method, main becomes the caller method, it needs to throws what? IO exception. All right. Is this part clear? So if a method is going to throw an exception or throws an exception, the caller method, the method which is going to call that particular method, also need to throw that respective exception. Is this part clear to everyone? Perfect. So please read these points. Now in interview, they can ask any kind of question. They can compare throw versus throws. Okay. So remember, throw is used to throw the exception explicitly, whereas throws is meant for handling exception. When you're using throw, you're technically going to create the object of that exception. Okay. When you're using throws, the class name, IO exception is a class name. No? So this particular class name will be written next to the method signature. Is this part clear to everyone? Perfect. Please go through these points. Next, what we will do now is, guys, since we are studying also, the answer apps over here. Okay, this is something that you're supposed to say in an interview. But what happens is we become so busy with just mugging up the answer, all right, that we sometimes forget that we also need to revisit topics. So what I want you guys to do is, or I'll say what we are going to do now is, we will be practicing all the variations of try-catch block. Okay. They can ask any kind of question. Can you handle multiple exceptions? Can a try exist without a catch block? All right. How many catch block a try can have? Can multiple try can have a single catch block? All those kinds of questions can be asked. So what I've done is I have created all the variations of the try catch block that you should be aware of. And we will be practicing all these things in our Eclipse. Is this part clear to everyone? Great. Now I want you guys to quickly launch your Eclipse and we'll practice each variation one more time. All right? Quickly launch your Eclipse. All right, guys, I'm back in the interview preparation project, and over here in the Capgemini package, you are going to create a class. Let's call this particular class as exception practice, something like that. All right. So over here, let's introduce the main method. Now, let's try to understand an exception, any unwanted disruption, okay, that affects the normal flow of your program. So let's say I have this particular code integer a equal to 10 and I'm doing system.out.println a. So of course, if I'm going to click on the play button, 10 is going to be printed on the console. This was fine. Now over here, guys, what I do is I say that a is going to store the result of 10 divided by 0. Now, mathematically, what Java is looking at, you are trying to divide a number with another number. Both these numbers are integer because there's no decimal as such. So the result of this particular calculation is also going to be an integer. So you're storing it inside an integer variable. So syntactically, you have not done anything wrong. But can you divide a number with 0? The answer is no, right? So over here, if I'm going to click on the save button and I'm going to click on play, you will now see an exception coming into picture, which is java.lang arithmetic exception. Okay, this is the class. Arithmetic exception is the class, and this is the message divide by 0, that you are trying to divide a number by 0, which cannot happen. Now, this particular exception was not caught by the compiler, but it was shown on your console when the program was executed. What type of an exception is this? Yes, this is your runtime exception, because this particular exception is coming when you are playing the program, when you're executing the program. Yes. So over here, guys, I want to handle this particular exception. So the best way to handle this particular exception is by going with try catch. So this particular line is creating an exception. I'm going to say try to do this. And we are expecting, a arithmetic exception. So I have to introduce a catch block now. I'm going to say catch. always take the name of the class which is creating the exception. Exception over here is a generic class. Don't use exception class. Go with the specific one, arithmetic exception. So I'm going to say arithmetic exception. And over here, what you can do is you can say system.out.println e dot. E dot, you can say get message. All right. I'm just going to click on save button. Click on the play now. You see divide by 0. This particular message is getting printed on my console. One more thing that I can write over here is e dot print stack trace. This is important. So if I'm going to click on the play button one more time, you see this is the message, and over here it is printing the entire stack. Okay, the trace, how exactly this particular exception is coming into picture. This particular line number 6, exception practice dot java colon 6. Over here, this is the line number. This line is creating an exception. This is the message, and this is the class which is giving me that exception. Is this part clear to everyone? Arithmetic exception. All right. This is the simple try catch block. All right. Quickly write this particular code at your end. Now let's duplicate this particular class. I'm going to create exception practice 2. And you're going to have multiple lines of exceptions coming into picture. All right. So over here, guys, this was a very simple arithmetic exception that we have created. Now what I can do is I can have something like this, an array. So A is already used. I'm going to say numbers. And let's say numbers are having values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. All right. Right. So over here, 1 is on the 0th index, 2 is on the 1 index, 3 is on the 2 index, 4 is on the 3rd index, and 5th is on the last index, that is the 4th index. Now, of course, I can access the indexes and try to retrieve the values. I can say numbers square bracket of 0. All right. So I'm going to click on the save button, and let me just fix this code. If I'm going to click on the play button, okay, you see this particular line got the exception. So it did not execute line number 7 for us. If this line is going to create an exception, Java is not going to go to the next line. Yes or no? Perfect. So let's fix this particular code. All right, I'm going to click on the play button. You see 1, because first we are trying to print numbers square bracket of 0. What is there on the 0th index? 1. So 1 got printed over here. And then we are printing A. 10 divided by 2, answer is 5. So 5 is getting printed for us. But let's say I try to change something. I say that you are trying to access a memory location on 10th index. Syntactically, this code is correct, right? Because this is my array reference, and over here with this array reference, I'm trying to access this particular index. Syntactically, it is correct. But arrays are going to be created when the program is going to be executed. During runtime, this particular program is going to be executed. Memory allocations is going to happen when the program is executed. So right now, Java does not know that whether this array is having 5 elements or how many elements are there. Java is not really like aware of those things. All things are going to be decided when the program is going to be executed. So if I'm going to click on the play button, I'm going to get array index out of bound exception. All right, you're getting an array index out of bound exception coming into picture. Now, this is also an uncaught exception. Now, a try block. Okay, over there you are having this arithmetic exception coming into picture. Okay, that is divide by 0. Next, I am trying to access index which does not belong to the array. So I'm getting array index out of bound exception. So I can just introduce another catch block. So a try can always have multiple catch block. Now over here, what is the name of the class? Array index out of bound exception. This is the name of the class. So I'm just gonna go to this particular block and I'm gonna say array index out of bound exception. That's it. Click on the save button, click on play, and you will see it is giving me the message This is the stack trace that I'm able to see that exception practice 2 Java file at line number 8 is giving me that exception. Clear? Now, of course, you don't really need to print this e.get message all the time. I've just shown you how exactly it is going to be done. If you know how to read the stack trace, it's perfect. All right, great. So this is what you call as the second scenario, the second variation of your try catch block. The first variation was pretty simple, simple try catch. You have a try block, a try is also going to have its corresponding catch block. Then over here, guys, I have one try block and multiple catch block. Okay. So a try is always going to store what? The code which is going to create an exception. Now, there are some rules also that we have seen about try catch block. See, whenever you are creating any try block, right, never declare a variable inside the try. Always declare the variable outside the try block. So, here also this reference variable, I'm trying to declare it inside the try block. It's not good practice. It's always better that you first create it, all right, and then, okay, you try to access it off. Is this part clear to everyone? What happened over here? Let me just see. Array constants cannot be used in the initialization. I cannot write it like this. I have to just cut it off and I'll put it off over here. Okay. You cannot break it into two lines. That's what it is trying to say. All right. And we are done. Okay. Rest all the stuff is fine. Only the code which is going to create an exception, you can keep it inside the try block. So remember, whenever you are going to create a try block, do not declare the variable inside the try. Declare the variable before the try block, consume them inside the try block, and if any exceptions are going to come into picture, handle it with a respective catch block. Is this part clear to everyone? Quickly write this particular code. Now, in Java 7, guys, they introduced a new feature in which you really don't have to add all these catch block one after the other, meaning you can combine all the catch block at one place. This particular feature is only available from Java 7 and beyond. So let's say, guys, if I want to combine all the catch blocks together, let's quickly create one more variation. Let's go to exception practice 3. All I need to do is I'm just going to copy this particular class name with the reference variable, remove this old reference variable, put a or condition, put a or condition, attach it over here and just remove this catch block. Done. All right. So over here, guys, your multiple catch blocks are combined together. Whether you will be having arithmetic exception, whether you're going to have array index out of bound exception, or you can have null pointer exception, you can just combine all the catch block at one place. So you really don't need to introduce different catch blocks, provided your catch block is doing only one thing. Okay, is this part clear? At all the exceptions, I'm just printing the stack trace, right? So technically, I really am not doing anything fancy. So I don't need to have multiple catch blocks. I can just combine them together. All right. So this is the next feature or the next variation of your try catch block where you can have try and all the catch blocks can be combined together. All right. We are using an or condition over here and only one reference is there. All right. Only one reference is going to be there. So quickly introduce this particular variation also, multiple catch in single catch block. Now guys, let's focus on the next variation, which is your try catch finally. All right. And you know what exactly finally block is meant to do. Finally block is going to be executed no matter whether there was an exception or not. All right. So generally the purpose of finally block is to close all the open resources. All right. So let's say I'm just going to write over here system.out.println calling finally block. Click on save button, click on play. And you will notice that even though I was getting an exception, finally block was getting called. So irrespective of whether there is going to be an exception or not, this finally block is going to be getting executed. All right. So we have the try, catch, finally. Okay, the fourth variation. Now, a lot of time when students practice try catch finally, they don't really know what to put in the finally block. This one line basically tells you it is going to close all the resources that you have opened. Now, let's practice that particular part. I'm going to create exception practice 5. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to read a file. So, over here, let's say I have this particular file, right? Person.so. Or let's create a text file. I don't want to create a serialized file and all. I'm just going to create a normal file, untitled text file. Let's call this demo123. Save it. It's going to be called demo123.txt. Let's call it demo.txt. I'm going to store it inside the interview prep project. Okay. Click on OK. And here is your demo.txt file. Now, if I go to the exception practice 5, first I want to read this particular file. Okay. This particular question has been asked also a lot of time. How do you read a file in Java? Okay. What are the steps that you take while reading a file? So the first step that comes into picture, guys, is creating the file reference. So file, I'm going to say it my file equal to new file. All right. And you're supposed to give the path where this particular file is present. Now, this particular file, guys, is present in our interview prep project only, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say system.getProperty user.directory. All right, user.directory. Now remember this particular code, system.getProperty user directory. What happens when you use this code, system.getProperty user directory? It's written user directory. It's going to tell me the exact path where this project interview preparation is present on my local machine. So it's telling me that this particular project is present in C, users, HP, Eclipse, -workspace, interview prep project. Now, if you write this particular code at your end, your path will be different. Try to write this particular stuff at your end. All right. I hope you have written the code. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a plus sign. All right. And what I want to do is I want to open this demo.txt, right? So I can just put over here // demo.txt. All right. So system.getProperty user directory is going to give me the complete path where this particular project is. Plus, I'm concatenating demo.txt. All right. So what is going to happen? It is going to know the exact place where the file is going to be present. Next, once my reference is created, I want to read the file. So I'm going to have a file reader fr equal to new file reader. I'm going to pass the file reader. Now you see that I'm getting an exception over here. So I will be surrounding it with a try catch block. Now this is what is there. Try catch. And over here, you see it's declaring the variable inside the try block. Not a good practice. Copy it. You bring it off over here. All right. Now, remove this. This is how it looks. Next, I'm going to say fr.read. Let's say, let's go with a buffered reader over here because we want to read the file quickly. I'm going to quickly create a buffered reader. br equal to new buffered reader. I'm going to pass the file reader over here. All right. So this is also a declaration which is happening. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to put it over here. All right. Next, remove this declaration. And I'm going to say br dot read. Okay. And we want to read the entire line. All right. So let's remove this. Now, read line, guys, is giving me an exception. Now, I can surround it with the other exception. You see, it's giving me an unhandled exception type IO exception. So, what I can do is, I can remove this particular chap and I can update it with IO exception. Okay, I can update it with IO exception. Now, you'll be like, Arey, Jatin, why you did not use this multiple exceptions? Try to do it. And you will notice that I'm getting an error over here, or I'll say some issue over here, the exception file not found exception is already caught by an alternative IO exception. Meaning, whenever you are trying to use multiple catches, okay, in a single catch block, they should not be related to each other. So, arithmetic exception and array index out of bound exception, they are not related to each other. But the thing is, file not found exception and IO exceptions are related to each other because the parent of file not found exception is IO exception. Okay. Here I am in the file not found exception class. Your file not found exception extends IO exception. So you have to choose one of these. So I'm going to go with IO exception. Is this part clear? Now over here, guys, we are trying to read the line. I can just say system.out.println. Okay. And I can just say, cut this, put it over here. Click on the play button. Demo 123 is getting printed for us. But once my job is done, right, it's always a good practice that you close your BR also. So that is your buffered reader. So I'm going to have a finally block coming into picture and I'm going to say br.close. All right. So I need to surround it this also with a try catch. All right. Try to close the BR and we will initialize the BR with none. All right. So over here, now if you look carefully, this is a real time code. If I will be having a buffered reader where I am trying to open a resource. Okay. Once I have read the content, once I have processed it off, it is a good practice that you are closing it also. All right. So a lot of time in interview, they can also ask the question, can a finally block have a try catch block? The answer is yes. Finally block is going to get executed. Whether you are going to have another exception code over there, you still have to put a try catch block over there also. Okay. So try to close BR. Okay. If there is going to be some exception, it is going to handle with IO exception. Okay. This particular catch block is going to handle it off. Quickly write this particular code, guys. And you see, guys, I'm getting this file not found exception, which we have not used it. Okay. There's a warning which is there. You can fix all these warning in one shot. Just press Control Shift and O. Observe, Control Shift and O. Gone. Any unused import, they will be removed with this particular shortcut. Control Shift and O. All right, quickly write this particular code at your end. All right, guys, I hope you have written this particular code. A lot of time in interview, they can also ask, can a try exist without a catch block? And the answer is yes. A try block can exist without a catch block, provided the next thing that you're having is going to be a finally block. All right. So let me show you the next example over here. Let's go to exception practice 6. And over here, guys, let's remove all these things. And let's try to have a try block. I'm going to say try to do something. Okay. But you see, I'm already getting an error over here that it requires a finally block. It's not telling that you need a catch block. You need to have a finally block to come into picture. So I can have any kind of an exception over here. So let's say 10 divided by 0. All right. And I can just say system.out.println. Hello. I am in finally block. So yes, if you look at the syntax right now, you can be sure that try can exist without a catch. Okay. But if you are using a try, you should at least have a finally block. Okay. And how many finally block you can have in your entire try catch block? Try to write one more time. You cannot have more than one finally block. Okay. Only one finally block is going to be allowed. So you cannot have two finally blocks coming into picture. So every try is going to have only one finally block. I repeat, every try is going to have only and only one finally block. Okay. I hope this particular part is clear to everyone. Now, coming back to practice 5, guys. Over here, the job of this particular finally block was to close the resources. Now, what has happened is over the period of time, Java has introduced another variation of your try catch block, which is called as try with resources. When you're using try with resources, you don't need finally block, or I would say you don't need to close your resources by yourself. Okay, Java is going to do it for you guys. So that's what you call as try with resources. So let's try to write this particular code, okay, with the help of try with resources. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to just duplicate practice 5. I'm going to go and create practice 7. We don't want this particular finally block, so I'm going to remove it. Now, how try with resources works now? Here, you are technically creating these objects, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a round bracket over here, all right? And this FR, right? Technically, new file reader, my file, right? I'm going to copy this and I'm going to put it directly over here. So we don't need this one line. Now, I'm going to copy this whole line, cut it off, put it off over here. All right. Now, let's see, BR cannot be resolved into a variable. You have to declare the variable here then. All right. Try with resources. Done. That's it. So over here, we having a try block, and this is where my Java statement is coming into picture. So this buffered reader, guys, will be accessible only within the try block. All right. And once the file has been read, automatically your Java is going to close your buffered reader. All right. This is because your buffered reader now is going to implement something which is called as auto closable. Please remember this stuff. Auto closable is a special interface, and any resource which implements auto closable, it will be closed automatically, okay, once its job is done, once it is not used anymore. I hope this particular part is clear to everyone. So I don't even need the file reader, okay, and this is how it looks now. Perfect. If you look carefully over the period of time, the syntax, or I would say the length of the code of your Java program is reducing drastically. Okay, previously, if you look at the versions before Java 8 and all, you used to write a lot of boilerplate code. The length of the code was pretty large. Now, what Java has done is Java realized that it is a very verbose language, and it wanted that the code has to be a little bit optimized, it has to be a little bit concise, so that it does not look overwhelming. And that's where, like the various other programming languages, JavaScript and Python also comes into picture. They try to make sure that your code is concise. Okay, so Java is also on the same line now. So whatever the new versions, the new features which are coming into picture in Java, the ultimate goal is to reduce the number of lines. Is this part clear? So this is your try with resources or try catch with resources. And over here, just remember the interface name, which is auto closable. Okay. If any resource is going to implement auto closable, Java is going to automatically close this once this job is done. Okay. After the execution of the try block, automatically garbage collector is going to come into picture and is going to close all these resources. Is this part clear? Perfect. Quickly practice this thing off. All right. So we have seen all the various variations which are there in the try catch block. Okay. So from your interview perspective, you should be aware of all these variations. And before we move on to the next question, we'll just go quickly through the entire document. We'll just see the entire variations one more time. We'll just read it and then we'll move on to the next question. All right. Quickly open the document. Now, guys, over here in the document, I have just covered all the variations of the try catch block that you should be aware of. Now, the first one, obviously, we saw was the simple try catch block. There is going to be a single try and a single catch block. This particular line is going to give me arithmetic exception, which is going to be caught by this catch block. And we are having this arithmetic exception E as a reference present over here. Now, the next one was your multiple catch block, guys. Used when try catch block might throw multiple exceptions and each exception is handled separately. So over here we have an array. Okay. Now over here, if you look carefully, the declaration is happening over here. Bad practice. System.out.println We are trying to access fifth index. We have 0, 1, 2. Okay, we don't have the third or the fourth. So this particular line is going to give me array index out of bound exception. And over here, the next line is giving me arithmetic exception divided by 0. So for the first line, or I would say when we are trying to access the fifth index, it's going to be caught by this particular catch block. And for 10 divided by 0, it will be caught by this particular catch block. So we have a try with a multiple catch block. Okay, the second variation that we saw. The third variation, okay, single catch block for multiple exception. As I said, it was introduced in Java 7. So please make sure that you can only access this kind of writing of catch block if you are using Java version greater than 7. Technically, you will be using it, but I'm just giving a heads up. Okay. So over here, what you need to do, your respective catch block, okay, your catch block over here is going to have the different exceptions. Note that these exceptions should not be related to each other. All right. So I shown you, right? We were having file not found exception and IO exception. So only one can be written because your file not found exception is a child of IO exception. All right. Your array index out of bound exception and arithmetic exception, they are not related to each other in any way. Okay. And then we are just printing the exception message. So single catch block for multiple exception. This is the third variation. Try catch, finally, you are going to have a try block, then a catch block, and a finally block. What is the purpose of finally block? Finally block is used to execute the code that must run regardless of whether an exception was thrown or not. Okay. Technically, you will be using your finally block to close resources. That's the purpose of finally block. Okay. Finally block, I'm repeating again, finally block is used to execute code that must run regardless of whether an exception was thrown or not. Okay. If you have not written, please write it down quickly. Next, let's go to the next point, point number 5. Try with finally, that is no catch block. Okay, this one is very important. I think if you are a candidate with 3-4 years of experience and interviewer is trying to check your Java knowledge, they will ask, can a try exist without a catch block? And a simple answer is yes, provided you are going with try and finally. If you don't need to handle exception but want to ensure some cleanup or final operation, you can skip the catch block. So we are going to have try with finally. Then you can have nested try also. I did not show this particular stuff in the code because it's very obvious. You can have a try inside another try. All right. A try catch block inside another try or a catch block for handling specific scenarios independently. So this is the inner try block. This is the outer try block. So I'm having a try and inside that try I'm having another try. This try is going to have a catch and then this try block is going to have its respective catch block. So first the inner try block is throwing me what? Arithmetic exception, right? Now the next one is the outer try block is giving me array index out of bound exception. So yes, you can have nested try block also. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Next, go on to the point number 7, try with resources. This is a very important one, guys. Please remember it off. Try block without catch or finally. All right, this is something that you can have. Okay, it is basically used with auto closable resources such as files or database connection. Now remember, auto closable interface allows resources to be closed automatically when the program exits the try block. Classes that implements auto closable ensures that the resources like files, sockets, or database connections are properly closed automatically when they are not used in the program anymore. Meaning once the job of that particular resource has been done, you saw the buffer reader, I was trying to read the file. Once I've read the file, automatically the buffer reader will be closed because those resources now implement something which is called as your auto closable. Now, what is auto closable? Please remember that this is an interface. Okay. Now, a couple of days back, there was this one student of a different batch. Okay. He was giving an interview for Capgemini itself. And there was this interesting question which was asked: what are the various features of Java you have used in your automation framework? All right. So, when you're looking at features, they are not just looking at the concepts. Okay. Talk about the various features like you have used try, catch, block with resources. You have used your collections. You have used your array list. You have used custom exception messages. All right. All these things you can talk about. You can also talk about the URL class. Couple of days back, we were working with broken links, right? So in broken links, I was using a very specific class to make an API request. We did not use rest assured over there. Okay. So all those things you should be aware of. You should know that's what you call as presence of mind. Like you have already seen various Java topics coming into picture. Okay. Those topics you can just talk about that these are the things that you have used in your project. All right. A very important question, guys. Please remember this is going to be Java features. Okay. Used in your automation framework. Okay. I will definitely cover it off, but please make sure that at least you try to write it down in your own words, whatever you have seen in the telet, in these all the interview questions, the Java modules and all. Remember those concepts, those features. You can really talk about them in your interview. All right. Now, coming to the last variation, guys, rethrowing an exception. You can definitely throw an exception in a catch block. Please make a note of this particular point. So over here, we are rethrowing an exception. I'm trying to call a method. Okay, this is the method. And over here, this method throws arithmetic exception. So we are catching that arithmetic exception. So look carefully. This is going to give me arithmetic exception. And once this particular exception is caught, I am throwing that exception again. So what is this called? You are explicitly throwing exception. So a catch block can also throw an exception again. All right. So that's what you call as rethrowing of exception. These are the variations which are there in the try catch block, guys. I just want you guys to go through it. Remember these variations, and I'm pretty sure you will be able to answer it off in interview. Now, the next question over here, guys, is how do you perform keyboard actions like Control, Alt, and Shift using Selenium WebDriver? Now, the interviewer did not ask the candidate to write the code. Okay. They just wanted the answer. Okay. The answer to perform all these special operations by pressing Control key, Alt key, Shift key, Escape key, the backspace key, and all those things. You can use a very special class in your Selenium WebDriver, which is called as Actions class. You know that part. I'm pretty sure. But the thing is, this is what study with me. So what we will do is we will practice actions class now. All right. We'll create a small utility. Okay. We'll try to perform various actions like pressing Control key, Alt key, drag and drop. We'll just try to see how it works. Okay. So it's going to be a quick revision. Okay. On how to use actions class in your automation framework. All right. So next 20-30 minutes, we will just focus on revising your actions class by writing code. Okay. So that you can remember the exact code, how you're supposed to use it in your automation framework. Okay. So I want you guys to again launch your Eclipse and we'll start automating a very simple website with your action class. All right, quickly launch your Eclipse. All right, guys, I hope you have launched your Eclipse. And what we will do is we will be working on this particular website, automationtesto.com, because on this website, I have a lot of places where I can use action class over here. So if I'm going to bring my cursor to apparels and accessories, I see this menu popping up. If I take my cursor to makeup, yes, I can see these menu coming into picture. Along with that, the interviewer has asked that you're supposed to use control or shift or your alt key, okay, with a composite operations. Composite operation means that you're not just going to press shift, right? You're going to press something along with shift. You're not just going to press control, right? You press control A to select everything, control C to copy something, control V to paste something. So these are all composite operation. More than one keys are pressed so that that operation get performed. Control C, control V, control X, control A, right? All those things you can play off. So those operations I want to depict with the help of Selenium WebDriver. So let's try to launch this particular website, guys. The first thing that I'm going to do is this. I'm going to copy this particular URL, go to automationteststore.com. All right, copy this. Let's go to Capgemini package, and I'm going to quickly create a class. Let's call this particular class as action practice. Okay. And what we will do is we will introduce the main method over here. And as usual, WebDriver is already there, okay, in this form.xml file for me. So in previous interview questions, I have already added your WebDriver and test.ng. So I'll be just working with WebDriver. I'll not write any test scripts. So I'm going to say WebDriver wd equal to new Chrome. Okay, why the option is not coming, but anyways, Chrome driver. All right, wd dot get. This is the URL. Click on the play button. Okay. And here you see, cancel this chat. All right. So this particular website is getting launched. Let's maximize it also. So I'm going to say wd dot window manage dot window dot maximize. All right. Let's click on the play button one more time. Let's close this one. Yep. Works for me. Now, let's first focus on the things which interviewer has asked. Okay, how do you press a composite key, Control, Alt and Delete with the help of Selenium WebDriver. So I'm going to play with this particular text area. Okay, so if I'm going to click over here, guys, I can press A. So right now my caps lock is off. So the moment I press A, lowercase a is being shown over here. Perfectly fine. Now what you do is you press Shift and A. The moment you press Shift and A, Shift S, D, what is happening? Everything is written in uppercase. All right. So it's going to change the casing. Let's say if I'm going to on my caps lock now and I decide to press A. So you see everything is written in uppercase. Now let's say I'm going to press Shift and A. It toggles the casing. If something which is there in uppercase, it converts it into lowercase. Is this part clear to everyone? Perfect. So I want to depict that operation. Okay. So I will be using your actions class over here. So let's remove all these things. Right click over here, click on inspect. Right click over here, click on inspect. And here you go. We have an ID filter underscore keyword. Let's take this particular ID. Copy this. Let's go back to Eclipse. Let's bring this guy a little bit down. And we will try to find this particular element. Now, the thing is, whenever you're working with Selenium WebDriver and you decide to find an element, you should always go for explicit wait, meaning WebDriver wait will come into picture. So the first thing that I'll do is, I will introduce WebDriver wait. WebDriver wait, okay, WebDriver wait, okay, is a class. You're going to create a reference equal to new WebDriver wait. You pass your driver reference. Along with that, you give a duration. So let's say the duration over here dot of seconds. I'm going to give, let's say, 15 seconds. All right. Now, Why exactly I have written L over here? If you remember, of second, this particular method requires a long value. Okay. So over here, what happens is this particular 15 value which you see right now, it's considering it as an integer. Of course, it will work, but sometimes it is always better that you take care of the casing also, and meaning the type also, my bad. So 15L basically means that I'm telling Java that, hey, don't consider it as an integer value. Okay, the int value. It's not an int value. Consider it as a long value. You do it with the float also, na? 2.34 s at the end. F signifies that it is a floating value. Your L signifies that it is a long value. Now, I will be using explicit way to find the element. So first, let me save the locator. Locator is of what type? What is the data type for a locator? By. By is a class. What type of a class is of by? By is a abstract class. So if you go to by class, you will see that it is written abstract class. All right. Now, sometimes in interview, people can ask, why don't you create an object of by? Are the reason I cannot create an object of by class is because it is an abstract class. Part 1. The second thing is, then how you are accessing the methods of the by class? Observe carefully. ID is a method. It is of static type. Link text is a method. It is of static type. All the methods in your by class are static in nature. Now tell me something. This is simple Java concept. If your class is having a static method, are you going to create an object of that particular class, or are you going to use class name? I will use class name, right? So over here, what I want to do is I want to create a locator for text box. So I'm going to call this as filter text box. Locator equal to by dot id. So id becomes the method, okay, which belongs to by class. Clear to everyone? And over here, this is the id value, okay. And then as usual, you can say wait dot until expected conditions dot visibility of element located by this one, okay. And it requires a by kind of a locator. I created a by kind of a variable. Automatically it is getting filled up over here for me. All right, semicolon. This entire line gives me what? Wait until expected condition visibility of element located by filter text box locator. It gives me what? It gives me a web element. So over here, web element filter text box. All right. And we are done. Okay. Now, some of you guys, Arey Jatin, you could have written this also, na? WD dot find element filter text box locator. It would still work. The difference between these two lines, line number 21 and 22, is line number 22 is a synchronized code, meaning it is going to wait for at least 15 seconds. Okay. The duration is of going to be 15 seconds. It is going to wait for the element to be visible on the screen. But this particular stuff, no, it is not going to wait. So over here, you might get element not found exception. Element not found exception. But over here, if anything goes wrong, let's say the element is not visible after 15 seconds, what will be the exception that your WebDriver wait is going to give me? Yes. What is that? It is going to be timeout exception. Now, I can just say filter text box dot send these, and I can say hello. All right. So let's click on save button, right click, run as Java application, keeping the fingers crossed. Let's check whether it is going to work or not. Ta-da! Done. Is this part clear to everyone? Quickly write this particular code at your end. All right, quickly write it down at your end. I hope you have written the code. Now, this is where your learnings comes into picture. A lot of you guys will tell me that, Arey Jatin, the interview said that press control, na? So I could have written filter text box dot send keys. And over here, I can use the keys enum dot control, okay, plus a, right? What's wrong with this? Let's click on the play button. Here also you are doing a composite operation only. You are pressing the control key plus you are trying to add a over there. Let's click on the play button and see what happens. It is getting selected also. So why should I use actions class? Now understand something over here, guys. Whenever you are working with composite operation, right, like you're trying to press more than one keys, okay, this operation keys dot control plus a, control x, control v, right, all those things are just getting entered as a series of characters, one after the other, one after the other. But whenever I have to simulate a user, like how exactly you will press control A. You will first press down on control, then you are going to combine it with A, right? Then you're going to release control key, then you're going to release A key, all those things you're going to do. Okay, that's what you call a simulation. And if you want to do something like that, okay, in your composite operation, you're supposed to use your actions class because it depicts the human behavior of pressing keys. All right. Along with that, when you try to perform these operations with the help of send keys, sometimes it is going to work, sometimes it is not going to work. Okay. Some browsers might support this particular operation, some browser might not support this particular operation. Are you getting the point? That's the reason whenever in interview they ask ki Baba, how do you enter special keys? Okay. Technically, let's say you're doing a composite operation, control A, control X, control V, control C. Okay. It's always better that you do it with the help of actions class only. Is this part clear? Great. Now let's try to use actions class over here. So what I'll be doing is I will remove this line number 25. I'm going to comment it down. Let's introduce actions. So how do you introduce actions? You're going to say actions. Okay. There's a class actions, actions. Okay. Equal to new actions. And you're going to pass what? Your driver as well as your duration. Okay. So let's go with the driver one first. Okay, this is something that we will do. I'm going to say actions dot, let's say, key down. And over here, guys, this is where I want to pass my character sequence. The same character sequence you will see here also when you're using send keys method. So over here, I will say key down on keys dot control. I can see control option coming into picture. Yeah, control. All right. Next, keys down actually returns you what? It returns you actions only. So you're going to say keys down dot send keys. Now I will enter A dot keys up. I want to, like bring my finger up from the control key. So I'm going to say keys dot control. Release this particular key. And then finally make sure that you say what? Perform this particular operation. All right, perform this operation. So I'm pressing the key down on control key. That's how you do it. Control A. Then you are automatically, your finger is going to get released from your control key. And that's the operation which I want to perform. All right. Now, let's see whether it works or not. Let's click on save. Click on the play button. Observe. You see, it works. All right. It works. This particular stuff has been commented out. So you will be like, Jatin, how exactly it is selecting the element over there? The thing is, wherever this trigger is there, no, I don't know if you're able to see this blinker which is coming into picture. So it doesn't matter if my cursor is over here. I'm pressing Control A. Automatically, this particular guy only is going to get selected because this is the text area. All right. Now, I can do one more thing. I can copy this. I can say keys dot Control X. Control X is what? Cut. Cut. Click on play. It's gone, but it has been copied. So over here, if I do Control V, you see hello got written over here. Are you getting the point? Let's see one more time. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to do Control A, Control X, Control V. This is for paste. Click on the play button one more time. It worked. Like how? Let me put a delay for you guys. All right. Thread dot sleep. Let's say how much? 5 seconds. All right. Let's just throw this particular stuff for now. Copy it, paste it. All right. Click on the play button one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pasted. All right. So it works. All right. So you're performing Control A, Control X, Control V. Control A is going to do what? It's going to select the entire text. You know, you have worked on Word and Doc and all those things. So you know better. Okay. Select the text. Then this is going to copy the text. And this is going to paste the text. All right. Quickly perform this particular stuff at your end. All right. Quickly perform this thing at your end. Quickly write it down. All right, guys. I hope you have written the code. And now what we want over here is we want to toggle the keys, meaning I want to press shift along with some alphabets. So if the key is going to be in uppercase, it is going to be converted into lowercase and written over there. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Just copy this, put it over here. And instead of saying control, you're going to say shift. And let's say I want to enter Jatin. And this one also, I'll put it over here. All right, so this is going to just toggle the text case. Okay, let's click on save button. All right, let's right click, run as a Java application. Let's observe the output over here. So there is a delay of 5 seconds everywhere. So that we can just observe the output in a much more better way. So it has just cut the text from here and you can see that Jatin now is written over here in uppercase, even though I am passing the text in lowercase. Is this part clear to everyone? This is all about your select all, cut. This is not technically copy. This is going to be cut the text. It's cutting the text. We are pasting the text and we are just performing some kind of a toggle operation. Now, finally, let's say the interviewer asks us, how do you hover your mouse on a certain element on a web page? So if I just maximize the screen, guys, let's say I want to bring my cursor on this apparel and accessories. So this is where I want to hover my focus. All right. So I have to bring my cursor over here, right? So I want to know where exactly this web element is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first find this particular web element. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Right click, click on inspect. And this is the element that I'm searching for. Now, over here, guys, the visible text over here is apparel and accessories. All right, this is something which we will be using. So what I'm going to say is Control F. Okay, find by string selector or XPath. This particular option is going to be shown to you now when you press Control F. I'm going to say find me a anchor tag. Now there are 289 anchor tags which are present on this particular page. Now we want to find an anchor tag that contains, let me just zoom in for you guys so that you can see it a little bit better. Okay, I want to find an anchor tag which contains what? It contains a visible text, and the visible text over here can be apparel. Okay, if I'm not wrong, that's the stuff. All right. So there are two places where apparel comes into picture. One is over here, and if I'm not wrong, somewhere down the lane, yeah, this is where apparels and accessories also comes into picture. We are interested in this one, right? So if I just press on the arrow button, I will be able to see different places where apparels are coming into picture. We are interested in the second one. Now, a lot of time people ask me, Jatin, I want to work with dynamic elements and all. How do you do that and all? Use contains method. All right. Because here you see that even though the whole word is apparel and accessories, even if I am giving apparel, it is still working, right? It's still finding this particular element for us. But the thing is, there are two elements. I am not interested in both the elements. I'm only interested in this one. So what we will do is, we will try to find the upper element, the parent element, UL. All right. So I'll write something like this. Observe carefully what I'm going to write. I'm going to say, find me a UL that contains what? It should contain an attribute called class, and the value of that particular attribute, observe carefully, right click on inspect. The value of this particular attribute should be this. Okay. Nav hyphen pills category menu. This is something that you're going to attach and keep it over here. All right. Then I'm just going to close this and you're done. Works. All right. Now, my dear friends, it is only finding one element for me. So I found the parent element. I'm not even going in the li or something like that. I'm just focusing on the anchor tag over here. So just copy this particular XPath, go back to your Eclipse. And what I want to do is, I want to hover my mouse on the element, because when I'm going to hover my mouse on the element, what is going to happen is I will see something like this. This particular pop-up is, or this menu will be shown to us. All right. Now, how do I do that? Simple. Actions dot, I say move to element. Move to element. All right. It requires a web element. We can use wait until, we can use wd.find element. For the convenience of this particular script, I'm going to go with wd.find element. Okay. So I'm going to say wd.find element by .xpath. All right, by .xpath, and this is my XPath. Boom, finish. All right. Let me just zoom out a little bit over here for you guys. Actions.move to element wd.find element by .xpath. This entire stuff is going to give me a web element. Yes or no? wd.find element is going to give me a web element, and this is the XPath. Now, if you observe carefully, there is something fascinating about this particular XPath. The thing is, you see this forward slash, that it is coming 2 times. So what is these 2 forward slash signifying over here is, first we will try to find the UL. Okay. Once the UL is going to be found, inside the UL, this anchor tag will be found. So it doesn't really matter whether there is a li, whether over the li there is a dev or something like that. But inside the UL only, it is going to find this anchor tag. That's the reason I got 1 of 1. Make sense? So we are just combining the two things together so that there's a wildcard search, and quickly we are able to find this particular element. So move to the element. This is the element that we want to move, and I just want to perform. That's all. Control Shift F, fix the formatting, Control S, save the file, click on the play button. All right. Let's see whether it works or not. Fingers crossed. So it started to work now. Hello, I can see it off over here. Nothing fancy happening over here. Let's wait. Hello, Jatin. Okay, I think it performed. I just moved my cursor here and there. So I don't see any issue as such. But if I'm going to click on the play button one more time, observe carefully. Now I'm not moving my cursor. And what do you observe? You observe that on apparels and accessories, okay, the menu had opened, right? It opened for us. Okay, we can see shoes and t-shirts and all. So that's the thing, guys. This is how you work with your actions class. Now, one important thing, guys, just remember it in case like interviewer asks you, can you really rely on this control A, control X, control V options with your actions class? The answer is no. Your cut, copy, paste operations which you do, they are operating system specific and not browser specific. So even though it is working for us in this scenario, chances are it might not work, okay, in some other scenario, some other ecosystem or operating system. So you have to be very careful when you're trying to perform this copy, paste, select all and all those operations. Is this part clear to everyone? Just remember that particular point. Okay. So we have seen actions class. The question was related to performing. How do you press control, shift and all? Always go with, like simulation of user actions. So you have to use actions class. I could have written something like this also, but this is not the right way. Okay, this is definitely going to create issues when you're working with headless mode, but this is something which works most of the time. But again, cut, copy, paste, they are operating system specific operations, not your browser specific operations. WebDriver can do things which are browser specific. Is this part clear to everyone? Along with that, if you want to hover your mouse on a certain element, there's a method called hover. So you have to use move to element. You have to give your web element and you have to just call the perform method. Now, one extra thing, guys, I have written wd.find element. Of course, this works, but you could have used wait until, and technically wait until would have been a better approach to handle this kind of stuff. So I'm just going to copy this and just write it in front of you guys, okay, in case you want to see how exactly the script is going to look when you want to do the same operation with wait until. So just do one thing. I'm going to take this particular X path completely. I'm going to say cut and let's create a locator called as nav link locator equal to by dot XPath. Oops, my bad. You already have this thing, na? So take this nav link locator, put it over here. I don't need these things anymore. All right, we can just remove it off. And what I'm going to say, wait dot until expected conditions dot visibility of element located by, okay, and over here this should have been called nav link locator. All right, take this, put it over here. All right, so this stuff over here is going to give me a web element and then only I'm going to perform the operation. The difference between the two scripts, okay, why we always go by the wait until and not by wd.find element, synchronization stuff. Remember that point. So that's it for this particular question, guys. Now let's go back to the document and look at the last question, that is, how do you handle test failure in your automation framework? All right, quickly open that document. All right, guys, let's move on to the last question for today, which is how do you handle failure in TestNG? Now, note that, guys, this is a very important interview question. The candidate who was giving the interview has given me this question: how do you handle failure in TestNG? But I want to correct this particular question and I want to rewrite it in a different way. The question should be, how do you handle failure in your test scripts? All right, or probably in your automation framework. Okay, now to answer this particular question, I will be using your Telit framework itself, so that like whatever you have built so far in the Telit, you understand the significance of those classes and those utilities. Now see, why do you need to handle failure properly for your test scripts? Because whenever my tests are failing, let's say I have written a test, and if this test is failing, I should be confident that if the test is failing, it is not because of my test scripts, but because of a failure or issue in the feature. Is this part clear to everyone? That's what you want. You want to have confidence on your test scripts, that my test scripts are not flaky test scripts. Okay, it is going to work. Okay, the results which are going to come after the assertions are going to be concrete result. Is this part clear to everyone? So whenever you decide ki baba you want to handle failures in your test automation framework, in your test scripts, there are certain things that you're supposed to add and supposed to build, okay, in your project. The first one that comes into picture is using your retry analyzer. Please make a note of this particular point. All right. The second one that comes into picture is you have to introduce logs, okay, in your automation framework, and you need to analyze the logs properly. Next one, you have to implement the screenshot and video functionality, okay, in your automation framework. Depends what you want. Do you want to go for video recordings or do you want to go for screenshots? All right. Next, you need to use your test listeners, your I test listeners from your test ng effectively. Along with that, there is a very special file. Some of you guys are aware of it. Some of you guys are not aware of it. You should be relying on a file which is called as testng-fail.xml file. All right. So these are the things that you should definitely use in your automation framework. Okay. Along with that, whenever you write a test scripts with the help of testng. One important thing that you're always supposed to do is make sure that whenever you are writing any test scripts, they should be independent of each other. Okay. Let's say a login test script should not be dependent on dashboard test script. Are you getting the point? You use the depends on attribute in your @test annotation. That's a bad practice. Generally avoid using that part. You have to make sure that you are able to run your test in isolation, because if you're able to run your test in isolation, okay, one, you will be able to achieve parallel execution, and the second thing is you will be able to understand which particular feature is working and which particular feature is not working. Is this part clear to everyone? Now what I've done is, for your convenience, I have attached the screenshots. All right, and I have written some important points, okay, for each of these things that you should be adding in your automation framework, okay, to handle failure in your test. Now I want you guys to just read this particular document first, and once you go through it, I will read it and I will also parallelly showcase it to you in your Telet automation framework where you have used it. Is this part clear? Perfect. So start reading from here and see if you are able to understand these points by yourself. Okay, quickly start going through all the points. I hope you have gone through all the points over here, guys. Now, let me just read these points one by one. Now, the first point that comes into picture is your retry analyzer setup. Whenever you are creating a framework, retry analyzer is the most important thing. It's a kind of a listener that you try to bring in your automation framework. Implementing a retry analyzer interface ensures that any test failing during the execution is given multiple chances to pass. Please make a note of this particular point, that directly marking a particular test as a failed test, we will give it 1 or 2 extra chances. Let's rerun the test again. Okay, and we hope that it passes off, right? So you're giving a extra chance to your test scripts for it to pass. Is this part clear? So this approach, that you are adding a retry analyzer, is going to help you handle flaky test in your automation framework, providing them ample opportunities to execute correctly. Sometimes in interview they can ask the question, how do you handle flaky test? Implement retry analyzer. All right. Sometimes in interview they ask, okay, from the Java perspective also, where you have used interface. Okay, retry analyzer is an interface. You have created a class called retry analyzer which implements retry analyzer. This retry analyzer has only one method called retry method. Your maximum attempt over here is 3. So we will try that if the test is failing, it is given at least 3 chances, okay, for it to pass. After three executions, okay, after three execution, even if the tests are failing, then I will mark the test as failed test. Okay. So let's say there is a first test, it is failing. Instead of marking it as a failed test, I will be marking it as skipped. Again, it will be executed. Again, if it is failing, instead of marking it as a failed test, I'm going to mark it as skipped. Again, I'll be executing it. So again, in the last execution, it passes. Then we will mark that test as passed. Are you getting the point? This is something that can do with the help of I retry analyzer. All right. So we have used this script. This is the same script which I have written in your tellet assignment also. Is this part clear? Let's go to the next point over here. Always make sure that you run your test in isolation. This is important. For better debugging, it is crucial to execute tests in isolation. Ensuring each test runs independently prevents any shared state. Shared state basically means that any instance variable that you have created, okay, it can only be accessed for that particular test. States are always going to be instance variable. So you have your page classes, you have your test instance variable, whatever you have created, those will belong only to the test which is getting executed. It is not going to be shared with any other test. Okay. So any resource, okay, we are not sharing those things, reducing false positive and negative and delivering consistent result. So whenever you are running test, make sure that you execute them in isolation only. Isolated tests are always going to help you in better debugging. Okay. Now, for better debugging also, you need to remember that you need to write clean test scripts. Sometimes in interview, they ask, how did you ensure that you have written, clean test, or how you ensure that the quality of the test scripts is good. How do you ensure that? So there are some rules, okay, whenever you are writing a test scripts. Now, these rules, guys, basically come from a book which is called as Clean Coding Principle. Okay, this is not something which I have created. This is something which has been from a book which is called as Clean Coding Principle. So over here, guys, even if you're writing a test script, that is a code. All right. So if you say that you're going to write a test method, the test method has to be small. If your methods are small, okay, maintaining those test scripts are going to be a little bit easier. Okay, if you have a test method which have 30-40 lines of code, that is not good thing. Now I see a lot of code which is floating around on YouTube or LinkedIn or even on Telegram groups, that they write a test scripts, and those test scripts are very lengthy. They try to include your conditional statement, they try to include for loops, your try catch exceptions, everything is there in your test methods over there. It is not a good thing, guys. Okay, because the thing is, your test methods should be concrete. Your test scripts should only have test steps inside them. Look at the script which I have attached over here. All right, over here, guys, if you look at my test called login test, over here I don't have any for loop. Do you find any for loop over here? Let me use a different color. Is there any for loop? No. The line of code, this is 2 lines of code. Here also, login CSV test user, this is 2 lines of code. You will not find any local variables. Do you find any local variables here? No. You will not find any for loop or loop, any kind of a loop over here. No. There's no try catch exception. There is no conditional statement. Okay. Everything is written as if I'm trying to write a simple English statement. Home page. From home page, go to login page. Do login with user. Get the username and get the password. All right. And then I'm going to assert whether the username is Jatin Sharma or not. Are you getting the point? Also, look at the parameters which I'm passing. Okay. I am passing a non-primitive data type. I have seen test scripts where, we have to fill a login form, or let's say user registration form. And over there, you have your address information, contact number and all. And they will be passing over your 10-15 parameters. It is not a good thing. It is not at all a good thing. So please make sure that whenever you are writing test scripts, okay, you follow all these rules. We have followed all these rules in the telet assignment. So please make sure that whenever you are writing test scripts, your test script should look like this. Is this part clear to everyone? Perfect. This is how you ensure that the scripts which you're writing is a high quality test scripts, and you're not just, uh, putting the code here and there. You're not trying to create some kind of a code smell. You're reducing the code smell over here. Maintenance is pretty low of this test scripts. Is this part clear to everyone? Perfect. Please go through this particular point one more time. All right, guys, let's go to the next point over here, which is rerun failed test after execution. A lot of time people ask in interviews, how do you execute failed test only? You don't have to execute the entire test. Let's say your test automation framework has 100 tests. Out of 100 tests, 30 got failed. Okay. How do I execute only those 30 tests? And the answer to your question is this particular file, which is called as testng-fail.xml. During the execution, whatever the tests which have failed, it is going to have an entry over here. All right, this is where the entry is going to be. So those 30 tests which have failed over here will be present over here, and this file is automatically created. Where exactly this file is going to be? In the test-output folder. All right, so please make sure that even if my tests are failing, and let's say after those test execution, I just want to rerun the 30 failed test again, I can rely on this particular file. So this is also something that you can introduce to ensure that, okay, if I'm telling my test is failing, I'm giving them ample amount of chances. I'm running the test in isolation. And the third thing is, let's say I'm only focusing on those 30 tests which are failing. Let's rerun them and see whether it is working correctly or not. All right. So if you want to rerun failed test after execution, you can use the testng-fail.xml file. This file is generated automatically by testng, contains only failed test. Okay, executing it allows you to focus on debugging and revalidating specific failures without rerunning the entire test suite. Is this part clear to everyone? Perfect. Lastly, over here, guys, point number 4. Always introduce logging, screenshot, and listeners as well as video functionalities in your framework. Now, all these are utilities. Okay, logging is a utility, screenshot becomes a utility, your listeners are basically some kind of a utility. All right, and video functionalities, whether you decide to go with browser stack, your Lambda test, they basically provide me with those utilities, okay, the functionalities. So what I've done over here is in your telet assignment, in the com.utility package, I have the extend report, right? This particular utility, by the way, extend report is now decommissioned. You have to use a new reporting. I'm just giving you a heads up. Probably in future, I'll talk about it. But as of now, you just be aware of those things. So extend report utility. This particular utility, guys, is going to create an HTML file for us, the test report for us. Okay. So inside this particular report, I have the screenshots. Whatever the tests which are failing, those are present. I am also attaching the logs, okay, inside this HTML file. Along with that, you have this Lambda test functionality or utility which I have created, which helps me run the test on cloud. So with the help of Lambda test, I can see this beautiful dashboard, okay, on their console, and I can just really check which tests are passing, the video recordings of each test, all those things I'm able to see it. Then we have implemented logger also. Is this part clear? So that I'm going to have a log file generated. The logs are also shown on the console, and those things I can also view it in my GitHub Actions or in my Jenkins execution builds. Is this part clear? Next, the test listener. All right, your test listener class implements your iTest listener. Remember this particular point. So these things are something that you need to add, okay, just to make sure that you have a proper setup to handle failure in your test ng, in your test automation framework, in your test scripts. All right. So these are the 5 questions which have been asked in Capgemini. As I said, the candidate was having 2 years of experience. So if you are going to have a similar kind of year of experience, I'm pretty sure chances of you getting these questions are pretty high. Please make sure you practice off these questions pretty well. And even if your experience is more than that, then there's nothing to worry about. It's Study With Me series, guys, where we just practice all the interview questions in detail. Do let me know in the discussion section of the video whether these lectures are very helpful for you guys or not. Are you getting the confidence that is required to give interviews? Are you having the confidence and the clarity on how you are supposed to answer these questions? Do let me know on those things. Now I'll be seeing you guys in the next one, guys. Till then, take care. Bye-bye. And don't forget to mark your attendance for this particular lecture. Take care. Bye.